retain the complete WISC and all of the services thereof, or relocate to Ukiah. And it's really not even that, but there's no in between either. So if there needed to be some program that needed to be housed up in the northern part of the county for that purpose, where's that option in here? This is not complete for me. And I hope that we're not basing any decisions, at least I'm not going to base any decisions based on this report. I think it may be a good start. We got a long way to go, and what I envisioned is a true economic analysis of whether or not it makes sense to triplicate services in this county. Okay. And I just don't think this is it. Mr. Chairman, in terms of Exhibit F, this was the extra help and overtime. Supervisor Colfax mentioned some of the overtime things. Again, my assumption is going to be that, as directed, the executive office is reviewing those requests and the auditors reviewing those as they come in if they're legitimate, because sometimes they are to be over, that those are fine. If they're getting the level of scrutiny, I guess is what I'm getting at, that the board asked for back in the budget process. If that assumption's inaccurate, let me know, but I'm going to assume that that is the case. But in the overtime report, why, Ms. Wyatt, is the max at 100% and not over 100% on the report? They max out 100% where some of these are clearly over that. Or amazingly, everybody ended it right at 100% and we're in good shape.
It shows in the budget available column that it is over, but the percentage shows only 100%, so I assume that the report only reflects 100%.
But in the extra help, it does reflect true. We have a 307%, 135%.
Yeah.
Meredith Ford, Auditor Controller. The way that works is if there is a budgeted amount, it can calculate a percentage. But if there isn't a budgeted amount, then it goes straight, whatever is being spent is 100%. So if there wasn't an amount budgeted for extra help or for overtime in a particular department, it'll only go up to 100%.
Okay. And then,
can I just add one more thing, just to
sure,
let you know for your information? This year-to-date overtime report, for example, does reflect expenditures through pay period 24. Since then, we've had another pay period, and I just wanted to let you know that. So pay period 24 would be what you're looking at as your examples, and the percentage that would be used is around 40% to this date. So that we would be looking at in through pay period 24.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Chairman, the last here for me is on page 4 of the summary of the 9 points that Ms. Glass, you laid out to us. Just a couple quick comments on a few of these. The increase of fees and penalties, and I'm not a increase the fee fan, and the parade and event permits. There's not a whole lot of county work that's involved with these, and that these are nonprofits trying to do their fundraising, and to try to raise a fee on that when there's, I'd be hesitant to go there. I don't think it's worth the gain to the county for what the cost is going to be to the nonprofit trying to eke out a little bit of fundraising event. In terms of the solid waste franchise fees, who's going to pay for that? It's going to be the ratepayer that's going to end up paying for that. It's no secret. It's going to be a pass-through. So, again, I question whether or not in these economic times that's a wise move. In terms of eliminating programs or positions, I'm glad to hear that we're getting somewhere on the solid waste proposals that Supervisor Pinch has brought forward and months ago. It's kind of one of those things that, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Well, it's coming. It's coming. It's not quite fast enough, I guess, is what I'm getting at. In terms of the hiring freeze and the extra help, went into that a little bit earlier, but I pulled an item off consent today that it was there for us to approve, and that was a position change upgrading in the DA's office. in my read of the, and I know we'll get to that later today, but in my read of that agenda summary is, if we're looking at trying to fill a hole here, why are we doing that? Just because the funding went away from one source, we're moving it to another? I know we'll get into that later, but where's that scrutiny on these positions? And then finally on the retirement incentives, you made the comment about those getting ready to retire, just retire a little more comfortably. There's actually some programs out there, and Mr. Mitchell and I have talked to some providers of those programs that actually spare our retirement system that expense of an earlier retirement. It's more of an incentive for the employee and on his or her own that makes that financially available. So I think that needs some exploration. It's
it's definitely on the list.
Okay, good. Well, I don't want it to go off the list thinking that it's going to be a burden on the retirement system when there's some other options out there that keep that from happening.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. CEO, do you have a comment to Mr. Delwar's concern?
Just a couple of points.
Then I'll go to Supervisor Pinches now.
Just a couple of points of clarification before we move on. That first of all, we tend to look at overtime, comp time, and extra help all in the same light, because what ends up happening is the department may make a decision to defer hiring an employee and sometimes either utilizes overtime to backfill in that position or extra help, or in some cases some comp time. So each one of those, we look at individually to see what the trend is, but we also look at the three of them together to see how well is the department managing toward their total bottom line of how much we've allocated towards salaries. The other thing, if you defer to the chair, I think that the HHSA staff has put considerable time into the WISC analysis, and if I could ask for the chair's indulgence for a couple of minutes for Carmel to come forward and address some of those questions, I think we could clarify some points for you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Please.
Chairman Wattenberger, members of the board. I'd like to just comment on some of Supervisor Delbar's questions, and indeed the staff at the WISC that are there working every day and that are serving the public at the WISC, which is the goal of the WISC, to serve the public, that they have done a lot of work in putting this report together. I realize, Supervisor Delbar, you bring up some good questions, and there may be some more work to do. My request is that we don't drag this on. I think the question was a cost-benefit analysis on the WISC, and also we were looking at the societal benefit